Sorry, that was the flaw. Hey, you're live.
Okay, so I'm getting okay, let me breathe. So we're live. Okay, yes. Everyone who is tuning in, thank you so much. So we are a little bit late. We encountered some very disturbing technical difficulties, and I hope that no one was injured or feels violated by the disruption that we encountered. I don't mean to laugh. It was just so unanticipated, and I'm really sorry for those who were on the call as we were beginning to just set up and get prepped. We got Zoomed bombed, and I'm not sure if anyone knows what that looks like, but let's just hope and pray that you never get Zoomed bombed in your life, because it is very disturbing. So I just wanted to apologize to everyone who joined us via Zoom. We have a new link. I'm almost afraid to share it, but we should not share the Zoom link, only with folks who reach out to me directly. That means that you have my cell phone number or my email address, and that you could prove who you are. And if you can get into this room, then you are legit at this point. I'm getting some text messages. Share with people. So I know okay, James. James is in the house. Thank you. He was a victim to what happened earlier. Thaddeus, were you there too? I'm so sorry. I know, Will, you were there. Pamela, you were there. Rashad, were you there? Did you witness? Oh, you were there too. Okay, everybody was there. I think we had like 30 people in the Zoom, but luckily we weren't live then, so it's not recorded. You just have to erase this from your memory and just pray that you will never be Zoomed bombed again. So I do believe we're going to have some folks who are going to join us via Facebook, because this link, we're a little bit paranoid and not going to share it again publicly. But our team is looking out for folks who signed up to speak. I'm waiting and hoping that Natanya Craig, who was the one who did this call to action, will be joining us soon. As well as James. I'm not sure if there was anyone else that reached out to you that wanted to be part of the Zoom conversation. If you could share with them the link. Thaddeus, the same with you. If you could share the links with people who you know that want to join the conversation, just share the Zoom link with them. Don't post this anywhere publicly. I'm going to ask Jacob if on the Facebook Live, if you could just let folks know that we had a disruption, and so that we're asking everyone to tune in via Facebook, and if they have any questions and they want to be engaged in the conversation, that we'll be able to do so by reading their comments and sharing it in this platform as a way to deal with the technical difficulties that we now have to endure as a result of the situation that we find ourselves in. And I know that some folks have funny names for their Zooms. Some people, they don't use their real name. So hopefully you are using your name here, so that we can identify you and call upon you. And I was using my daughter's account at once upon a time, so I didn't even realize that I was on Elise Cooper. So I'm Jay Mejia here, so I should be good. There's Natanya. How are you? Okay. So welcome. We're going to get started. I just wanted to thank everyone for convening. This is not a conversation about a conversation, just to have another conversation, because by a show of hands, how many people are tired of that? Now y'all can, this is a participatory situation here, right? So the goal really is for us to walk out of this with some really concrete action items and things that what we'd like to see in terms of moving the work forward. But I just wanted to start off with the call to action and ask Natasha, because she is the inspiration behind this impromptu conversation. She posed the question on Facebook. Thaddeus Miles had already been, talking about our youth for several weeks now, and James asked me, what am I going to do? And I'm like, oh, wait, I should be convening people. So we decided to bring our minds together so that we can really start thinking about summer planning, summer programming, and making sure that our kids get what they need this summer, despite the unknown, right? So I want to first introduce and get Natanya Craig to really help set the stage, because in many ways we're all here because she asked the question, and I want you to kind of bring us in.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. Hi everyone, happy Friday, or I hope it's a happy Friday. I know it's a weird time for all of us, which is exactly why I kind of pose this question, because many of us are thinking about, are we going virtual? Will we be able to have in-person programming? But more importantly, I've been in the nonprofit field for about 20 years, mostly in the philanthropic field. And I realized that we are, and this is not, I'm sure somebody else said this, but it's always stuck with me, that we are so rich in resources in Boston, but we are so poor in our coordination. And I can't think of a better time than now for us all to think about how is it that we, as people who are supporting our young people, become a web so they're not falling through, right? That we're not operating in silos, especially this summer and for the future, but that we're operating together, that we're making sure that we know about each other's work, that we are connecting our young people to the right resources, and that we are putting our competition to the side for the greater cause of our young people being served. And so that was really the basis of the question. I am more than happy to carry on this conversation for as long as it takes for us to figure this out. I think it's been long enough that we have done things the usual way. So I look forward to us all putting on our creative hats, putting aside our differences, and then figuring out together how we can collectively make a difference.
And I'm going to go to Thaddeus. I didn't tell you that I was going to go to you next, but I didn't prep you for this, but you don't need any preparation because you've been asking the same question for months now. Just kind of help us, set the tone and what you're hoping for out of this conversation as well.
Thanks, Julie. I think the first thing I want to just say is I love you, love your energy, love what you've been doing for our young people, making sure that their voices are listened to, not just heard, but listened to, and that we have action and actionable things after that, that is just not talking. So I just want to say thank you very much. It's good to see some of the faces up here that I know. Good to see Will in the group, Rashad and others that's up there. So for me, I'm looking at the state to figure out what are we doing for our young people across the state, and how do we actually interact and we get them to move. But more so is how do we come out of these silos, and how do we start to think about summer jobs, right? Which is going to be an important component. We have the education, but how do we really work that through? And I'm looking at it like Natanya used to do from a funder standpoint. How do I make sure that the kids still continue to receive payment? How do I make sure that we're still working on physical distancing while we're still bringing in social solidarity? How do we make sure that we have an intersect of folks, and that we use this beautiful struggle that I see to really build unity, right? And to build unity in a way that we haven't before. Because when I look at the different organizations that's on this call and on Facebook Live, all of us are working with the same kids.
That's right.
Right? It's not like we've got one special kid that only we work with. All of us are working with the same young person. And if we believe in the young person, then we believe in their parents and we believe in their family. So we have to work with them. So I'm looking forward to hearing about, like, what are the next steps towards getting them to have a functional, new normal, unified, cared for, mentally and physically, and financially productive summer.
Great, thank you, thank you. Thank you for that. And I'm gonna ask James, just really quickly, one of the other folks who kind of really wrangled everyone together to be in this call, just share some quick reflections before we continue on with the conversation. Well, you got to be off mute though, brother.
Thought I was off mute. Hold on. There we go.
Okay, go ahead, get it together. There you go.
You're still on mute, James.
It's the controller. It's the controller. Are we there now?
We're there.
Yeah.
There we
Okay. The Brady, thank you, sir. I know he's over there trying to man all of this since the bomb. So very quickly, Counselor, thank you so much for convening this. And I share the same sentiment with Natanja and Thaddeus as well. Shout out to both of them who in the community has been funding a lot of these efforts for a long time. I just think it's important to name that we have done efforts like these before. However, because a lot of us in our different jobs and we volunteer and do this, we've convened, we've made good plans and had action items, but the follow-up for various reasons was not able to be in place. So that's one of the things that I myself personally, and also Drive Boston, has told Councilor Mejia. We've talked to Thaddeus and other folks, shared it with People's Project a few times as well. We're willing to step in and serve as sort of a logistically admin-y, so this work continues to keep going. Everything that we convene, the notes that come out today, it needs to be followed through. So shout out to everyone that's on here. I see folks that have been in a struggle for a while. I see young people that's on here. That's awesome. And I'm looking forward to just being a part of enhancing what we're all doing, but also a coming together of if it's going to take unity. And if a world pandemic doesn't do it, then my God, what will? And I'm done.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to, I know Cairo from the Boston Foundation wanted to say a few words because he has to leave at 3:30. From a foundation standpoint, for someone who's really interested in this conversation, Cairo, if you could say a few words, and then I'm gonna Will, I'm gonna kick it to you, Will. So just so you're on deck, so that you know I'm coming to you next. Okay, Cairo. You unmute.
Brady has to unmute him.
Brady, unmute Cairo. Thank you.
Julie, I have to leave at 4 while we're waiting, just FYI.
Hi everyone, it's good seeing everyone. It's nice to be with family today. And I, as Julia mentioned, I unfortunately have to step out at 3:30. We have another COVID meeting, COVID fund meeting. But one of the things that we've been doing with my summer in the city has been just checking in with all of our partners, really just trying to understand how their work is evolving, is changing over the next coming weeks, over the next coming months, and trying to be as flexible as we can be and responsive as we can be, just because we know it's a unique year. And really what I wanted to just, why I wanted to be on this call was to really just learn and continue to listen, right? I know we've been in touch with the city and thinking ways that we could coordinate efforts and are still navigating that, and more to come. But we're still very much in the early phase, exploring and figuring out how to support our partners. And some of our partners have been really intentional in being like, hey, we can't do summer programming this summer. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the transparency. I think one thing that I've noticed is folks are working across lines, working across the relationships and turfs and all of that stuff, and it's really incredible to see that, and we just want to make sure that we're supporting that and elevating that. So I'm here, even if I step out at 3:30, I'm here, and happy to connect with folks later and continue the conversation.
Thank you. And we know where to find you, so don't worry. You know how to go get that money if we need to. So no, thank you for joining us. It really does mean a lot to have your voice in this space. And we'll be sure to follow up with you with some notes and things that came out of this conversation, so that we can continue to build from there. I'm going to introduce Will Morales from he's the commissioner for the Boston Family Youth Centers and a lot of the youth programming. But just wanted to just let you guys know one thing is that when it comes to youth development, I met Will in 1996. Yes, we look good for our age. So I just wanted to let you know that we're OGs in this business, right? We've been at this for a long time. We hosted a youth conference back in 1996. And Will was the keynote speaker. And this conversation that we had was in 1996, talking about the violence that was happening in our community. And we brought in we brought in Fox 25, the Globe, to teach young people how to utilize that different art form to help amplify PSAs around violence prevention. And at the time, Will had just came back, if you will, right? And he was doing some work in the community. He was our keynote speaker. And the fact that he and I are still in this, if you will, in this space, doing this work, fighting for our people. But now we've been blessed to be in positions now where I believe we might be able to move the work a little bit further, speaks volumes to the importance of really being able to set the foundation for real meaningful youth engagement and development. So I'd like to introduce Will so he can talk about the work that his office is doing to help us. And then after that piece, each of his people are going to talk. And then the next part of the conversation is, where do we go from here? Where are the holes that we're going to fill? And going back to Natania's call to action, and Thaddeus and James, is how do we do this in a way that no one feels like we're stepping on each other's toes, because we can't do business as usual if we're really serious about saving lives. So we have to really start thinking about how do we work as a collective this summer. So I'm gonna kick it to Will. Okay.
Hey, thank you, Julia. First and foremost, what I want to say is I really want to extend a stay safe and healthy to everybody that's on this call. I know that all of us, directly or indirectly, by this time have either known someone who's been impacted, and you know the fears that come with it. We're in a situation now that, unfortunately, if somebody gets hospitalized for this, we're not there with our loved ones the way we want to be. And so you can only imagine what would happen in a household where there's a young person whose family might be getting impacted like this, and really feeling like there's nowhere that they can turn to or someone they can talk to. From the BCYF standpoint, of course, we've been monitoring this very closely. As many of you guys are aware, majority of our community centers have been transformed into food distribution centers. And to this date, we've served over 60,000 plus meals. Just this week alone, our workforce, and I got to bless them all, have decided that they want to be able to also make sure that meals get to the homes of those families who are homebound. Some of those families happen to be families who have children who have disabilities. So for them not to be able to come out of their home to get that meal because there's challenges with their children, driving those meals to their home is very meaningful. And as you guys might be aware, our street worker program, which is now SOAR, continues to have some visibility in the community, where we do some observational kind of outreach, meaning that we're looking for the individuals who might be in our caseload. If we see them hanging, we just give them a little hi, put them to the side, try to talk to them the best that we can under these safe distance procedures, but just to let them know that, that there are people out there that are still care for them and want to make sure that we all get through this as best as possible. As you guys are aware, one of the secret successes of BCYF is that we're not just a center that somebody has to mute there. We're not just a center that's just focused on our own individual program. We're also centers of partnerships. And so there's a lot of work that we do with a lot of other nonprofits throughout the summer that utilize our space. So one of the things that we have been doing lately is trying to have conversations with those organizations about what their intent was for the summer. So, I was happy to see this coming together, because it's good that we have a joint conversation about this. But at the same time, to figure out how do we continue to support them once we're ready to go. Just like many of you, we're waiting to determine what will be the criteria, what would be the ideal group setting numbers that we might be able to work. What is that perimeter? I know that in BCYF, we're looking at still moving forward like if it's a full summer, but at the same time, redirecting those programs and thinking about, if the cap is 50, what can we do with 50 young people? If it's only 25, what do we do with 25? If it's 10, then what do we do with 10? Because the reality is that we want to make sure that our doors are open and that young people have a safe place to go. I know that our youth workers are doing the best that they can, using the social media format to keep tabs on their young people. I think we have to encourage every youth worker, regardless if you're with BCYF, the Wise, churches, whoever does any kind of youth work, to check on their young people as much as possible. This has a very different impact on them than it might have on an adult. So, we're encouraging that within our framework. At the same time, we've been working in partnership with the Boston Foundation. And I don't know if many of you might have seen it, but we have actually undergone setting out a sort of needs assessment, a COVID-19 needs assessment, to try to talk to our constituents. And we've gotten a lot of adult responses. Is trying to get the young people to also fill out that survey so that we can really look at that data and see what it's telling us. And we're doing this along in partnership with Rashad Shop, who's also done a survey, and we'll be interested to look at that data. And of course, as many of you guys are aware, the Boston Public Schools has also sent out a survey. So hopefully when all of that data hopefully comes in, we can look at where the big buckets are and where's our capacity to serve in the best way that we can. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our young people know that they're being loved and that they're cared for. And that only happens not one organization, but all organizations doing it together.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. There's a question in the chat that I'm going to share here publicly, so that folks who are tuning in via Facebook can also know what's happening behind the scenes, if you will. And Natania wants to know how we can get the survey out. So I'm going to ask for two things. One is if we can drop the link onto the chat, as well as once that gets onto the chat, Jacob, if you can cut and paste it and put it onto the Facebook Live so it can get shared. And then all the nonprofit organizations that are here can also share it with their networks.
Yep. I'm going to let Pam be driving this.
Pam can talk more about what the survey is all about, what information is going to be gathered, and how that information is going to be used. It'd be helpful for people to understand the dynamics behind that.
Yeah, so we identified that we know there are needs. There's needs across the boards for no matter what age you are, there are needs in the city. So Boston Centers for Youth and Families decided to put the survey out and really hope and know that the information that we're going to collect from this is going to be able to drive us in the right direction for being able to, one, fulfill the needs and really provide the programming that's needed across the board. So the survey is actually, it's very quick, it's pretty simple. Depending on the age group that you fall into is the kind of questions that you'll be receiving. So we'll share the actual link itself on the chat in a second, but I really want to stress how important it is to get the youth voice on this. So I would love if we can use all of our platforms to share this. And then collectively, once we get all of the data, we will be sharing the report across the board to all of our partners, to everybody, so that everybody's using the same information, the same data to kind of identify the needs and fill the gaps as best possible. So we're going to share this right now. And I know that you probably share later, Julia, but you have something special going on too for the young people that fill out this survey.
Sure, it's not about me. I'm gonna let Cisnel Bias, who's my Director of Constituent Services, because this was her big, bright idea to talk about what our office is doing, because it's not about me. Go ahead, Sissy.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cisnel Bias. So just thinking of a way to get youth involved, we're actually going to be raffling off two $50 gift cards within this week and next week. Our office is going to be having we're going to be hosting a series. Yesterday, we hosted a talk about mental health in youth, and it's actually, the turnout was so great. We're going to continue to have it for the rest of the month. There's going to be 4 series. So in order to promote that within our series, we're going to be doing that, as well as just raffling off, actually having people engage in the conversation, giving them a chance to pay off to their cell phone bills. So we're going to be putting that flyer up on social media. But again, the point is that we want to make sure we have youth voice heard, and we make sure that that's reflected based on this survey that Pam has put together. So thank you.
Yeah, so whoever fills out, the young people will be able to fill out the survey, enter their name into a raffle, and we'll pay their phone bill up to $100 for their phone bill. So they get we'll have 2 winners from that pool. Is that? And so if you all have ideas, if you all want to contribute and you say, I'll help you pay your phone bill, we can serve more than 2, but we're on a budget. So we're doing 2 young people right now. But if, Thaddeus, you got some money, we'll take that money and we'll incentivize more young people. So yeah. And Irvine, I'm loving all this. I just want to say hi. I see you out there. Okay, so Pamela, anything else you want to talk about? Some of the other things that you guys are doing, because I'm going to have Rashad go next, talk about youth employment, which I know youth employment is on the top of everybody's minds right now, and I think it's really important for us to have a sense of what is coming down the pipeline from the city. But Pamela, anything else that you want to share with us?
No, right now we're good. Like I said, we're really focusing on getting this, the needs assessment so that we can plan accordingly. And then a lot of our stuff and what we're going to be focusing on will also drive youth jobs. So it's a great segue to have Rashad continue with the conversation.
Yep.
And I see James raising his hand. So we'll go to James before we go to Rashad. Go ahead, James.
Get on mute, James.
Okay, here we go. Will, is it possible in this new time of things, doing things differently? There are a few surveys going on throughout the city. I've seen a few posts. So unique to what, a city or municipality does is release their report. Can you and the young lady maybe set a date within maybe a week or so you don't hold stuff up and figure out who else is compiling data and how that data can be compiled with the greater BCYF one, but some of the smaller ones, all of that data be compiled together from everybody that's doing the survey, and then maybe release that in a sort of cooperative or collaborative thing. Some of the data sets may differ, but I'm willing to help and do that. But I think that would be important and really shows a different approach to unity, that all the data be compiled from all entities doing surveys. That way we get a larger, more informed data set. Thank you.
And James, I think that was the plan. Rashad and I had spoke earlier this week, and when he was doing his survey, and we talked about launching ours. We talked about getting that, and also BPS, because I think the city's data analytics department could probably fuse a lot of that together and create the big buckets that we need, so that we're talking across. The difference with us is, as you know, we serve everybody from the womb to the tomb. Right. So at the end of the day, we have seniors, we have families, we have young professionals, we have a youth, at all very different stages of development that come to us. So sometimes maybe Rashad's questions are more about the organizations and what their capacities to continue to employ their young people, because a lot of them, as you know, many nonprofits have already made some decisions and have furloughed staff, and unfortunately may not be able to recover that staff in time. And we're all sort of on the fence, waiting to what the state and the nation says, what will be the guidelines for us to operate, after this surge kind of settles down. But, hey, we're going to be transparent and share what we got, because the reality is that we care about the voices of where that source of information is coming from. And we want to demonstrate that in anything that we do, that they see it when they come into our buildings, that it's reflected, that we heard them, and that we're putting those programs in place.
When is a date that you want that other information so we can get the folks that may not go into the centers? Can you set a date? Anybody that wants to send info to be compiled in the other one, what's a date that you want that info? I know it's kind of on the spot, organic, Julia, sorry.
It is. So right now, the push this week specifically, our sites were focused on reaching out to our youth to get the word out, to get the survey. The results so far, we've gotten over 1,000 results, which is fantastic, but it's it's heavier on the adult side. So we really want to make sure that every voice is heard. And now I think through this platform and all the other platforms that we're sharing it, we'll have a better data set. So I would say if we could give it about at least a week, 1 to 2 weeks to really get a good amount of data. And it's not so heavy. If we push it out through email blasts, it's only really going to get to people that are on email blasts or are checking their email. Right now, we're focusing on kind of sending it out through text messages, doing it on social media, calling, let's go old school and call people, have them fill it out. We're having people fill it out or at the when they go and actually pick up meals. So we're really trying to be strategic and intentional about who it is that's filling this survey out. So that's really important. And I also did want to add, the way that we created the survey was taking very much so into consideration what was asked on the BPS survey. So I noticed that, it was very directed to BPS and the population there. So I wanted to make sure that we covered the other non-BPS specific population. So that's why that was created. And obviously the intent will be to combine everything and share out. So I'm actually really confident in, and I'm really proud in the work that's gone into this survey. I'm just really trying to push it out so that it's, really the voice that of everybody is heard with this.
So like 2 weeks, we'll get you other surveys and then it could be compiled in. Cool.
Right, and I would say that we
James on mute in a little bit, Brady. We're gonna put James on mute, okay?
Rashad, I'll be right there. I'll pass the torch. 1 second.
The only time you have mute with James is if it's commute.
Put him on mute, Brady.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, well, so I wanted to, Julia, I forgot about the cookbook. Is it okay to mention it right now?
Yes, go ahead. Well, okay. Actually, can you, because I want to give, I don't want to get, there's a lot of other folks that are also waiting in queue. And I know James has a heart out at 4. James, I'm wondering if you're going to be coming back for the ends of what we talked about for the next steps. Yep. Okay. So I just want to be mindful of some of the things that are happening outside of the space that in Facebook. So one of the questions that just came from the live audience is, how are we defining youth? What's the age when we're talking about young people? I just want to make sure that we're all having the same working definition. I mean, I think of young people between 13 to 24, 25, and I think some people are more laser focused. It's from 14 to 21. I think everybody has a different set of definitions, but I'm curious for this specific survey, what's the age range that you're looking for? Pamela.
So we're clear that for the school-aged kids, parents are more than likely going to fill out the information. The other bracket, it really would be like from the 10 to 18 age bracket. That's where we want, a really solid, and obviously focusing on the teenagers, but also there's this big bracket, and we call it our super teens bracket. It's the 13 and 14-year-olds, where they're like too cool for our programming, but they're too young to work. So they're like right in between that tween stage. So I would love to get that age also represented.
Okay, great. Thank you. Rashad, I know that you were up next, but I lied. I'm going to switch it up real quick just because I want to have conversations. I want to have a robust, I want to hear from different groups.
No worries.
So, I'm gonna go to someone had asked me about their sharing some of the stuff that they're doing. Conan, CONIAHB. Brady, find that individual on your and unmute them. Where are they?
They're unmuted.
They're unmuted.
Yeah, it's Kanaya, sorry.
Kanaya, sorry.
Okay.
So can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you guys are doing for some of your employment before Rashad goes?
Yeah, so basically, I work for YJPU, it's Youth Justice and Power Union, and for our end of the school year campaign, we decided to do youth jobs. And we noticed that over the past few years, the budget that Boston was given for youth jobs hasn't been spent in its entirely. So we're gonna make calls to the mayor's office, demanding that they make a plan now for youth jobs so that youth aren't left out during this pandemic, because we just focus on so many things and forget about the youth, and that's what we can't do. There's families in Boston who rely on these small paychecks to help with food or just helping pay bills, help their parents in general, or take the weight off of their parents in general. And we were asking that we raise the budget from I think it was 4.5 to 15 million for youth jobs, just so that we can double the summer jobs amount to 5,000 and the year-round jobs to 1,000, and to expand the age range from 14 to 22.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm being asked to unmute someone else from your organization, but I'm going to go first to Rashad, and then I'll go back to your organization. And then what I would like to do is that for those folks who have ever been to any of the events that I've worked on, you know that I'm very interactive and engaging and trying to do things where people have an opportunity to work in groups. So we are going to break into 2 groups to really delve a little bit deeper into this and then come back as a collective. So Rashada, you want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys have coming down the pipeline for employment? And then I have one more question from the Facebook audience before we move into our groups.
Sure, great. Council Mejia, thank you very much for having me join today. Thank you also for your continued advocacy for our young people here in the city of Boston. That is truly, truly needed now more than ever during these times. So thank you. And Thaddeus, Brother Thaddeus, Natanya, thank you guys. You guys have been a true inspiration to me and your efforts around work with young people the past number of years as well. So thank you guys for that. I just want to give a very brief update on some of the conversations that we have been having at the city level, specifically related to youth employment. So my current role is I oversee the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment for the city of Boston. And essentially our work consists of, I think Kanaya just mentioned city funding around youth jobs. Our department manages the city's funding for youth jobs within the city of Boston. So I'll be able to answer your question after I give a few updates. So we were really hoping that this pandemic would have very minimal effect on summer jobs. And I think as we begin to inch closer and closer to the summer, we're realizing that that might not be the case. So we are having conversations with some of the larger summer job providers. So that is us, that is Boston PIC, the Private Industry Council, that is ABCD, that is MLK Scholars Program through John Hancock, and that is YOU, Youth Options Unlimited, out of the Office of Workforce Development. Together, all of these organizations, we make up nearly about 8,000 jobs that are typically offered to young people during the summer months. So that is a significant number of jobs. So our efforts right now are trying to pull together a contingency plan in a modified summer youth employment program. And what that contingency plan looks like is us, one, beginning to think about what does virtual work look like for young people. We know that young people would rather get up, be away from their homes, away from computers, but our current reality is telling us that we need to have a plan in place to allow young people to work virtually if these current circumstances require that for us. So we're working on a contingency plan that includes virtual work opportunities. We've recently, as Will mentioned, released a partner survey to all of our CBO partners and some of our private partners as well, to gather some feedback from those folks around summer youth employment. And these are our partners who actually provide the on-the-ground employment experiences to our young people. So some of the questions that we were asking some of our partners is essentially around capacity. Do they have the technical capacity to be able to offer summer employment? Do they, do they have supervision or staff to be able to offer summer employment? And what are some of the barriers they feel are in place to be able to continue to provide young people with summer experiences? We know as a city of Boston that there are some incredible thought partners that care about young people. New York recently had to cancel their summer jobs program. And we feel here in Boston that there are too many resources for us to be able to make that decision. So we are trying and hoping to work together to make sure that we are offering young people some type of summer experience. So that is definitely our goal. Some other things that we have been a part of is we've participated in some national youth employment conversations. We've had conversations with Northeastern University. We've had conversations with Boston Public Schools. We've had conversations with some of our partners. So we're fielding a lot of conversations to begin to work on a modified summer. And I'm confident that we will be able to have summer jobs. It just won't look the same. So as we continue to plan and pull our efforts together, we do, we are hoping to release that information so folks can understand what a revised or modified summer employment program will look like. And then lastly, our City of Boston Success Link Youth Jobs application, it is currently still open. Our application is rolling at this point. We decided to have the application become a rolling application to allow young people to continue to apply up until the summer. So if you all, you can visit our webpage, youth.boston.gov. You will be able to navigate the summer jobs application from there. And then I also have Tierra Lyons. I asked her to join this call as well. Tierra manages our youth employment program. So in the event that there are any questions that folks have, she'll be able to answer some of those questions.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually was just about to send Natanya a private little text message, but you got done speaking before I could do that. So I was gonna just give Natanya the heads up that I was gonna go to her next, because you had posted a question here in the chat around virtual jobs for young people. And I think as we start thinking about the new age and the direction that we're moving in, specifically for this summer at the very least, can you talk a little bit about what you were envisioning and what that looks like for you? And maybe you can utilize this group here for some thought leadership around that. And where's the energy around that? And you're on mute, Brady, Natanya, Craig. Oh, we can't hear you. There we go.
Yeah, still? Okay, good. Yeah, so we just, it's actually, I'm not going to steal the thunder. This is actually my colleague, Robert Finnegan, who's on the line. So the Possible Project is a youth entrepreneurship program that focuses on teaching entrepreneurship skills to our young people with the hope of them, the act of them starting their own business actually carries on throughout their life, right? But Robert Finnegan, my colleague and partner in this work, is really the master around, or the thought partner around this virtual youth opportunity. So I want to actually hand it over to him, Brady, if that's okay, and he can talk about what our efforts are at the Possible Project.
We're going to Robert next. There you go, Robert. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Hey, thank you so much. And thank you, Natanya, for raising this. But more importantly, it's so exciting to see this collaborative conversation around what I think is going to be a huge issue for this summer. But more importantly, if we can band together, I think it could be potentially a really great opportunity. Internships are amazing for students, but as everybody knows, there's a varying level of success that students have in them. And this might be an opportunity to pull together those industry experts that we have in Boston to really help students really understand, how they have gotten where they've gotten in line with this sort of virtual internship. So the Possible Project has a plan for our students, but we always want to be a community partner. So we'd love to put it out there. We'd love to think this through with other organizations and trying to figure it out. We'd love to be a connector, thought partner, and really think about the students that we currently don't serve, because, I think we've got a great plan. We don't have huge student numbers, but we're in it for all the students in Boston. So we'd love to hear thoughts, but we will be rolling something out for next week for a plan, and we'd love to work with others on it. So.
By a show of hands, because we could do this visually, right? By a show of hands or even in the chat, is this something where you all, if you want to participate or you want to be a thought partner, you want to be an investor, you want to be a leader, you want to help convene, raise your hand or drop your information on the chat so that we can connect you.
Awesome.
See, I got some hands. There we go. We got some hands. Okay, see, you got some people over here already recruiting. Natanya, go ahead. We're going to Natanya, Brady. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if you are interested, because then we can reconvene in a week or two, if you could drop your name in the chat, that would be much easier because I missed some of the hand waving.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. And your phone number and your email address and your DNA while you're at it, right? Just drop everything in that chat. We'll be good. So I have some folks who are asking questions on the chat, as well as folks who are interested in speaking. But I really do believe that in terms of the process and being really mindful of people's time and how we utilize people's time, I want to be really thoughtful about what we get out of this time here. And we have 22 people in this room. It might be challenging for us to continue in a group setting with all of us. I think that we might be able to unpack some things if we break out into some rooms. And I think what we'll do now is we're gonna break out into two groups, 10 or maybe three groups. How about that, Natanya? 3 groups. Yeah, we'll break into 3 groups, and we're gonna pose the questions in the chat, and what we're gonna do is, this is called what is it? Human design, a person-centered design way of thinking, like that. The conversation is really guided by folks who are doing the work and living the realities, and that we have the brighter solution. So I'm gonna have Jacob introduce the design process and then the questions that we're going to ask in the breakout sessions, and then we're going to come back and do a report back and then action steps and close out. Does that sound good, Natanya? And I know, James, you're going to be coming back.
Will you put the questions in the chat box as well?
Yep, he's going to put the questions in the chat box. So Jacob, you want to explain the process and what the questions are, and also include them in the chat box, and include them on Facebook too, so that people on Facebook, I'm going to be working with the people on Facebook so they don't feel by themselves. So I'll be doing this, but with the Facebook folks, while you all are in your breakout sessions. Dale, Jacob, unmute him, please.
Yes, just one moment.
Hello. Thank you, everyone, for joining this conversation. The model that we're talking about is something called human-centered design or design thinking, something from the Stanford D School. And the way that it works is it encourages everyone to get to know each other, who they are, what they do, what their lived experiences are, and then sort of setting the stage for what the problem is, and then sort of slowly working our way from brainstorming concepts to very specific action items. Because the goal of this conversation is to be solutions oriented. So hoping to really get out of this conversation with some clear goals and some action items that we can all take back to our respective workspaces to really drive the conversation forward. So I'll post the questions in the chat real quick. First question is simply, what is the scope of the problem? What is it? How are we setting the stage and understanding the problem as it relates to COVID-19, whether our issue is youth violence or youth education, youth jobs? How are we really sort of setting the stage as it relates specifically to COVID-19? And also, how was it impacting us beforehand? The second question is, what is the opportunity for change? What are our goals? What is sort of the high level things that we want to see happen? The third question is, what are 3 things that we can do that we want to see in order to change whatever it is, the problem that we've identified? And then the fourth question is simply, what are the action items that we're all going to take away from this conversation? So we're hoping to spend around 30 minutes in these breakout sessions to talk through it. I'm going to post the questions now, and we hope to have a really organic conversation. There you go.
So initially, just so you know, we were, when we first started designing this, we thought that we were not going to get photobombed, and there was going to be, it was going to be a whole different way of functioning. but we really do hope that you all still see this process. For us, again, it's not just about having a dialogue about a dialogue. It's like our hope is that the smaller breakout sessions are going to come out with some real viable action steps that we can hold ourselves accountable. Because here's what I firmly believe is that, you know, they say that whatever gets measured, I forget what they say. Something about measuring something.
Whatever gets measured matters.
Whatever gets
measured matters.
Right. And so my thinking is that if we can come out of this conversation with some very clear things that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to, then as a collective, regardless of what nonprofit organization we identify with or whatever our issues are, that as a collective, we can all hold ourselves accountable to that one thing that we're going to do to move the work forward this summer, right? Regardless of what our personal agendas may be. And so if we can come out with some things that are actionable, then we can measure that and then refine it. Because I believe, and Stanley asked the question about how we're going to transition into this new normal, you know, the reality is that we won't. I do believe that what is happening right now is setting the tone for what the new reality is going to be for us. And I think the virtual reality is going to be a big part of how we move forward in a lot of different spaces, regardless of COVID-19. I think that we need to, what we have seen is that Zoom has become a place where a lot of people are able to connect. There's going to be a lot of energy around maybe even having youth peer mentoring through Zoom. This is the innovation that I think COVID-19 is helping us drive. And so that's what we're hoping to plan into, right? So we're ready to go into breakout rooms. We're gonna do 2 because should we do 4 groups of 5?
I have it set up. For 3, and it's 6,
3.
7, and 7, which I think is sufficient. And
Okay.
I've made sure to divide everyone up so everyone will have a member of our team in
Okay.
each room to help facilitate.
Okay, so 3. So Brady, this is Zoom. However that looks, we'll all be going into different breakout sessions, and you guys will see each other. Somebody from our staff is going to be facilitating. They'll take notes and report back. So whatever room you're in, have fun, be innovative, and come back ready to share. And then I'm going to go on Facebook and do this with the folks who are on Facebook. Right, Brady?
Yeah, if you want to run the Facebook, then just uno momento while I just adjust and get that settled. Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm going to open the rooms in 3, 2, 1.
You're
So
all going to
everyone-
be in different groups.
So they should all be they're all slowly migrating over there.
Oh my God, bye. James, it's just me and James. James, you're going to come back, right? And Royal, James is going to come back. I can't hear James. You could take James off a speaker. Leave James here.
So I have to come off at 4, get on during my phone, but I have a youth at 4:15. I'm coming to Facebook with you for a few minutes and help with that. And then I'll be back on about maybe 4:20-ish. No pun intended. All right.
Okay.
Brady, I'll see you back on. I'm hopping off.
Okay,
all right, see you.
Okay. All right, Brady. So you and I are on Facebook.
Mhm.
I can see, well, I can't see. Can you see if there's anyone on Facebook? Because I don't know what our audience looks like.
Yep.
So if there are people there, hello. We were Zoomed bombed, and it was very disturbing. And so we had to switch things up at the last minute. So unfortunately, not everyone got the Zoom link. We had to have a new Zoom link. So right now, Brady is asking us a question on Facebook. I don't know, Brady, if there's a way for us to engage with people. Oh, there's a lot happening here.
Yeah. Sorry, I was managing the breakout rooms and sending them the questions. but yeah, there's a lot.
Okay,
So
let me. Okay, so I got some people saying that they're here. Hey, thank you for joining us. We cyber safety.
okay, and I'm just going to send some things in the chat to you that I'm finding on Facebook that people commented.
Yeah, can we show the chat room for those folks who are tuning in via Facebook? We apologize for the technical difficulty that we experienced, but Brady, is there any way to show as a screen share the chat, some of the things that are coming up on Facebook?
I don't think that we can show the chat, so you just have to read it off to our viewers on Facebook right now.
Jamal Crawford says here, so let's empower a child that's 15 to 16 or whatever, summer jobs. This is the glue holding our families. This is the glue holding our families in questions. Youth programming summer jobs is almost nothing if this is a part of a stable family unit. So if to have no money and my 15-year-old daughter has a summer job or does she pay rent, I get paid. I get the part of folks wanting to be so positive, but you're going to doom us with no consideration for the problems or challenges. Thank you for that, Jamal. The struggle is real. I'll just say this. When I was in high school, I worked 3 jobs during the summer. I worked at Tommy Can Shoe Store, Brigham and Women's Hospital, and I worked at McDonald's. So I know how difficult it is to a job is not just for internship experiences or just for career explorations. A lot of our young people are working because that's how they're putting food on the table. And I think, summer employment is just one piece of the pie. I think that we need employment year round. And I think that that's the type of I would say some of the things that I think that we should be advocating for. It's year round employment opportunities for youth. So we have Ms. Richardson, who's also is present. I wish there was a way for me to, I'm gonna drop in the Zoom link here so you could join me. I think this might be, Brady, don't get scared. I feel like the people who are joining us here won't be bombing us because I think this is a contained crowd.
I think just in the name of security, and since we're doing this live and we can't go back, I think it might be better to just message people directly. I'm happy to message them directly and share them the link. So
I just deleted it. Leticia, I'm going to send you the link to your Facebook Messenger so that you have it and you can join me here, only because we had a really bad situation happen to us.
right. I sent her the link.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Yeah, just so you can continue to interact with the audience. I'll manage the technical behind the scenes stuff.
Okay, if there are other people, Madeline McNeely had just joined us. McNeely, hi, thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I just got the link from the chat on Facebook.
Okay, and I just deleted it. Luckily you got to see it really quick, and that only because we had a security breach.
I know about it.
And oh my God, did everyone know about it?
Well, I mean, I've been in other settings where it's happened.
Mr. Forrester, is that you? Thank you for joining us too. We it was really bad. I think I traumatized everybody that was there, including myself. It was really bad. So we are opening up. Right now, what has happened, I'm not sure if you've been following along, but we broke up into different breakout sessions and asked several questions in terms of the conversation. And I figured that we could do ours via Facebook so that folks who are tuning in via Facebook can still be engaged in the dialogue. So the first question is,
do you want us to go back to Facebook, or should we go?
No, it makes me feel so much better to have people here
that can
join us. So thank you. And Mr. Forrester will also be joining us because I see he's on here.
I know Abergal, so that's good.
And then hopefully Ms. Richardson will also join us. But the question is, the first question is, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? If we look at what's happening with COVID-19, we look at summer youth programming and youth development, what would you say is the problem that we're trying to address here? I'll go with you first, since you're here, Madeline.
All right. I mean, I might be insensitive to say, I don't think it's anything, it's not that it's not different, it's more acute. It's the same shit. It's the same stuff. People need jobs, people need resources, people need supports. I think the difference, or if I were to, I did the intensity or the need for mental health support in virtual spaces has increased. I guess that's something I would say. How are we, oh, can you unmute me?
Unmuted him, don't worry.
Yeah, you can unmute.
Okay, I'm on mute now. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone unmuted. For this conversation here, since it's a smaller, we can unmute everyone.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Madeline.
No, I think that's the thing that, I'm not as directly on the front lines as some of the youth workers in the space. So I'm one step removed in some ways, but I certainly know that the increase of racism, I know, so I live in Newton. We've had a bunch of anti-Asian stuff happening. And so how to get different young people and just different folks across, oh my God, I'm in two places here. Wait, I'm watching myself on Facebook. Okay, forget that. How to get young people of all different colors to understand we're in this together and not pit each other against each other. But those are the things on my mind these days. And I also will send out, this is more of solutions or actions, but I think about, I've got a pretty big database and I can send the survey out to people in my network. So I will be doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go to Mr. Forrester.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about what are you seeing as, right now the question is really about the issues, and Madeline did say it really eloquently that these issues have always existed. Now the added layer of COVID-19 with the physical distancing, with the virtual reality, like kind of help set the stage for us in terms of what you're seeing as some of the problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Madeline's point, I mean, the problems are still the same. It's just now it's exacerbated, right? I mean, when you take a young person who hasn't been comfortable in their home and now they're restricted to have to be in their home, it's like you exacerbate the problem that they were already dealing with. So a lot of what we're talking about is just an exacerbation of the issue. I think the question is, how do we give young people healthy outlets to be able to discuss what they're going through, but also think about like, what are the action steps that they can take? So one of the things that we're trying to do at Teen Empowerment is really not just focus on the exacerbation of these issues that already exist, but to say, what are the power structures, who are the leaders that need to hear your voice around this issue so that we can begin to plan and organize accordingly. So when there is an opportunity to either be in person or look at all the alternatives of proposing solutions, that like the young people's voice are in the game, and as adults in the network of nonprofits and social service, we're able to help them frame what they feel and think and are going through emotionally in the right way to move the needle on the problem. Because this is the thing, like you said it earlier, Julia, that like, you talked about 1996 and being like, we're dealing with the same presiding issues, right? And it's because I think a lot of it for me, having, I'm studying public policy as my master's, and I'm almost done at Tufts. And I'm like, a lot of what I've been exposed to is like spinning the wheel. I'm like, why are we still taking the same, information off the shelf, trying to do the same problem, creating these same research mechanisms, not letting in new innovative ideas, when we know that the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So
yeah,
I'm always I'm always invested in in the ideas of in the responses of what are we going to do different going forward.
That's right. That's right. And you know, I'm so glad that you raised that. Many years ago, I took a class at Harvard, just one class. It's only because we supervised interns that they gave us a free class. Not because I was a Harvard student or anything like that. And I was talking about some of the work that we were doing around violence prevention. And, you know, some of the things that we were talking about in the class, I'm like, oh, you know, this sounds, everything was like put into the academics. And I was saying, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And they would say, oh, that's so-and-so's theory of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't even know who so-and-so is, right? And I think for me, we can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We're living in different times, right? And if we're really serious about moving the needle, then we have to be really serious about how we're going to do that as a collective, right? And I think that there's so many organizations here who are doing amazing work in the youth development space that we can come up with a prototype for not only this summer, but how do we take this as a template, and that we can do this all year long, not just during summer jobs.
Right.
So absolutely. I just want to make sure that I recognize other people. Ms. Richardson, you're also on. I see that your phone is here. We can't see you, but I just want you to know that we kind of see you. And then someone who I don't know, but their name is REEP. Reep, you're here. I can't see you either, but just wondering if you had anything. Okay, Reep, I see you now. Anything that you want to share before we move on to the next question? Because I think we have a 10-minute warning.
5-minute warning.
5-minute warning.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to go, Ms. Richardson? And then
well, I was actually going to say that, and you actually said it right as I raised my hand, that we can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results when we're dealing with a totally different group of kids than what we were dealing with back in the 90s. So much has changed with these children, and a lot that's missing is the mental health piece. And then you said it also is that there's a bunch of agencies that's working, and we do need to get a template together so that all of the agencies are working on the same plan, so that if there is a break in services and another different agency have to go in, they're not starting all over or doing something different. They're doing what was working before.
That's right.
You know?
Yep. I think Natanya Craig said it, and it's something that I always say, is that we're resource rich but coordination poor, and we have an opportunity to really streamline how we do business in Boston, just do business in general. Mr. Reep, I'm gonna go to you. I don't know if your name is Reep or not, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. But if school me, introduce yourself. What's up?
Greetings. My organization is REAP, Roxbury Environmental Empowerment Project. We're the youth organization within ACE, Alternative for Community Environment. So hi, we are REAP, so you're pronouncing that right. But my name is David. Hi everybody. I'm sorry for being late. Internet problems, but not to be ironic with internet problems, I think that us having this type of connection with each other deliberately is a way that we create our new norm for ourselves to how we push forward in this. I remember Van Jones coming to speak to us and talking about taking opportunity out of crisis, which what other people seem to do really well, the opposition seem to do really well, but we seem to struggle in that. And I think that's what you were talking about, the lack of coordination that we seem to have. I think that during this time, and the fact that we can have 30 people, 50 people in different breakout rooms to have all this type of information and ideas to come through, I think this is the time. The time is now for us to use this information and the resources that we do have to compound that. I always believed in a youth coalition, such as like SNCC back in the day, or whoever, all the other youth organizations that really created a solid foundation for a movement, is how we're going to get past this and create a position forward. So I'm just really happy to be on this, and hopefully I can hear some more stuff on how we can push that forward. Right now, we're doing Zoom parties at our organization still organizing, calling about evictions and MOAs that just passed already. So the young people are still moving forward, and we're not letting none of this stop us. So we're trying to figure out how do we get other people or other resources so that we can make this a much bigger thing.
So I'm very competitive. I don't know if you all know this, but I won by 1 vote, and I want to make sure that when we come back and convene, that we got some ideas and some solutions that we can share with the rest of the people. So, and we only got a few minutes left. So if we could, recognizing that this is our new normal, right? What are some of the, Brady, how was the question phrased? Because we're not going to do all 4. I want to go to the last one.
Yeah, sure. The last question is, and it relates to, what are the things we can do to achieve our goals, is what is our action item? What are we going to walk away from this conversation doing to make what we want to achieve happen?
Yeah. So I've heard stuff around virtual jobs. I've heard things. So let's just really quick, what are some of the things that when we think about summer, because right now this conversation is around youth development in summer, what are some of the things that we can present? So virtual jobs, right? What kind of jobs do you see young people? Because someone on Facebook said that most summer jobs consist of like working at a summer camp. And if we're not going to be doing those type of jobs, what other things can young people be doing virtually that they can get paid for?
So this is Abigail. I think one of the things that we need to do is just do an assessment of like corporate partners that have been involved and CBOs that have been involved as placement sites for young people, right?
What other things can young people be doing virtually that they can get paid for?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think one of the things that we need to do is just do an assessment of like corporate partners that have been involved.
Brady, can you
Yes.
can you mute Anesthesia? I think she's also watching. And
placement sites for young people, right?
what other things can young people be doing virtually?
I don't know. Like I'm getting like a reverberation.
Yeah, it's multiple places.
Okay, now we're good. We're good now.
Yes, what I was saying was that one of the things that we need to do is really do an assessment of like sort of the placement field, right? So there's some corporate partners that participate in as being placement sites for young people and nonprofits or CBOs. The question is like, what are the areas within those sort of those entities? What are some of the things that they can come up with that might employ young people to do to help them with, right? As we move to this virtual platform. So maybe there's some ideas around, I mean, a lot of the work that we're doing continues on at Teen Empowerment because a lot of the work that the young folks do is around organizing and doing some things that we're moving virtually. But there may be some corporate partners that need some help with like doing some database stuff or, so like how can we do an assessment to know like what in this new normal for right now, if we're in this for the next 3 months, what are some of the gaps or capacity that organizations need that might tie into the skills that young people have that they can do while at home and or online?
That's dope. Okay, great. We're taking notes so that we can report back. Any other things that you think about that you want to add that so we can look like we were really making things happen here? What we got? What else you got, Madeline? Come on.
The stuff in the chat box I'm typing. Reap, is it David? Anyway, Reap just peer counseling, peer tutoring, virtual like voter registration. There's all kinds of virtual voter reg stuff happening. Yeah, so Reap wrote some stuff. Those are the things that are,
Okay.
Because I think Abigail, you probably are, but I know BSAC, I know other folks are doing good peer mental health work with, youth peer counseling stuff is happening, which I think even corporate, how can corporate organizations, even if it's not their direct need, support it anyway?
Excellent. Brady, yes? Our time is up?
Yeah, I believe our time is up, so I'm just going to bring everyone back. But
wait! Before everybody comes back, who wants to do the report back? Abigail, you want to report back?
Yes.
No. I don't know what we said. I didn't write anything down.
Read the chat box.
You talked about corporate partners doing an assessment, and then David talked about peer counseling,
Okay.
Read the chat. Reap wrote a bunch. I wrote some stuff.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll do the report back.
Our team will go last so that you have time to prep. How about that?
Okay.
All right. I'm bringing everyone back. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm so glad that we were able to figure it out so I don't have to be out here by my, just working.
You're doing great. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody's back.
We're back.
Wow, I feel like 30 minutes. I don't know what's up. I don't know. I feel like we got gypped. I feel like that was like 10 minutes. We were having, I think we were probably having too much fun in our room that it felt like, what, it's 30 minutes, we're done. So what we're gonna do, it's hard to say. Did everyone come back? Did somebody get lost?
There's like a minute like buffer for them to leave manually. So there's about 15 more seconds before they'll all be automatically rejoined.
So could I just say while everybody comes back, this is the weirdest thing that Zoom controls everything. Like it's crazy. But we actually managed to have some people from Facebook join us. So we were able to do a little bit of recruitment, and we got some new folks that joined our family here. So I'm excited to hear the amazing conversations that happen in each of our breakout sessions. And so Brady, I am thinking of, I'm gonna just go to people. I'm gonna point to Natanya. So Natanya, I would love for your group to go first.
Yes, Natalie got it. She's holding us down.
Okay, so gonna let us know what came out of your group. So once we allow you to this muting situation, sorry, we're gonna let Natalie speak, Brady. Okay. And can you tell us
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie. I'm the Director of Communications for Counselor Mejia. So I do everything that's press releases and newsletters and communicating with all of you via socials to really push the information out and make sure that we are getting out everything we can about what we're learning around COVID-19 and also all the resources that we're coming across to help our youth, our undocumented, our elders, and everything that I'm sure we just talked about in our breakout groups. So in our breakout group, we had some really great ideas and conversations, especially talking about identifying the problems. We found that, especially when it comes to youth, it's not really seen as a population that is needed for services. A lot of these programs can be more family oriented. So having youth as like a primary focus hasn't always been the case when, like it was talked about earlier, that money is vital and is important to contributing to a family or to yourself for food, for housing, and everything in between. We also talked about kind of how broken we're finding a lot of these systems are to accommodate these needs. So going back to rent and not being able to have access to the stimulus check because you don't qualify for it, food insecurity. And overall, we're talking about how during like the Great Depression, for example, there was a 250% increase in unemployment rate for youth. And so kind of addressing how maybe we can prevent something like that from happening right now and making sure that we can expand youth opportunities, especially within the city of Boston, to make sure that maybe that number isn't so high and we can figure out ways to really make youth our primary populations here. So it's not just grouped into family resources.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear for group number 1, y'all. Woo, virtual claps. Come on, we gotta have fun here. If we're not having fun, we're not doing this at all, okay? Okay, so thank you, Natalie. Who's ready? I know Natanya gotta leave at 4:30. What time is it? Okay.
4:23. Group 2.
Group 2.
Yeah.
Hi, that was my group. In my group, we had Royal, we had Pedro, we had Tiara, and we had Will and Pam. I think that was everyone, right? Yes. We sort of took like a big step back and looked at like what kind of conversations do we need to be having. And ultimately the biggest thing that we took from it was something that you've probably all heard before, which is nothing about us without us is for us. And that none of us as mostly adults in this room, I know we have a few youth, but as mostly adults in this room, we need to let the youths lead and follow them. They know more than we do what it is that they need in terms of services. And I don't know how many times that we can go to their spaces and ask them how they're doing, because like, I don't know how I'm doing. And that's a really big thing, is how can we sort of involve them in the solution, but in a way that is not so focused and so morbid when it comes to the problem. And so that's sort of the biggest thing that we took away, is like, how can we sort of activate ourselves through the examples that young people are setting for us, because they know more than we do about what they need. And that's something that I experienced when I was in high school and college, is a lot of adults telling me what they thought was best for me, and I disagreed with that most times. And so that was the biggest thing that we really took away from that, is like, let's have more conversations where the youths are leading, and follow their example, because they know best. And if anyone has any additional thoughts from our conversation, I would encourage you to please let us know.
Yeah, and we have teen empowerment. I know that's in the house. The youth JPU is also they have some young people in the house, and unfortunately, you probably didn't get any in your group. But I do think that that's a really important conversation, and I think that the second one that we do of these dialogues should be youth driven, and only young people should participate. And what we should be doing is listening and letting them facilitate this dialogue, and we're there to take direction from them. So that's a really great next step that I think that we should all put on our radar. I'm gonna go to Natanya, because I know, Natanya, you have to leave. And
my group, I was with Sis now. You want me to?
No, but I do, because I asked Natanya to help lead this, to work alongside a few others who are interested, because I don't want things to just happen as a one-off. I feel like there's too much stuff happening here, and the work is really important. So I was hoping that Natanya and a few others will step up to kind of help shepherd this, if you will. So Natanya, before you go, I want to publicly ask you to do that. And just want to any last
love you guys. Yes.
Words.
I mean, no, the answer is yes, right? I said no, I'm not gonna lie. When she first, I was like, no, I don't have the capacity, right? But that's bullshit. The truth is I do have the capacity, and I'm happy to help. I can't do it alone though. That the whole conversation is about us not doing it alone. So I'm not asking for volunteers at this very moment, but I am asking you, if you have an hour and a half, 2 hours to spare, maybe over the next 4 weeks, so that we can come up with some really solid recommendations for the city, even perhaps for the state. Thaddeus, I know you're working, your work is much broader. So just think about it, be bold, be courageous, come do it with me, because I can't do it by myself, and that would be weird anyways. But yeah, I would love the help, and happy to follow up.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason why I asked Natanya to speak before she left, because that was the pitch. And we are going to ask folks to step up and be part of a steering committee, because the work is bigger than Boston, and we have an opportunity to create a blueprint here. And then that's something that we can use across the state to really kind of help people understand that everything has to be youth-centered, if we're really serious about ensuring that kids have a future worth looking forward to. So I'm gonna put Thaddeus on that, so he don't know that either, but I'm just saying. Okay, so Natanya, just in case you have to leave, I just want to say thank you again for asking the question, bringing us into this space, and for your continued leadership in this capacity. We are so appreciative of you and all that you continue to do for our kids. So
I have such deep love and respect for all of you. Thank you for everything that you do, and the work that y'all are doing after hours, and how it never ends. And I know it's been difficult for all of us in our families. So sending you all love, and continue to stay safe.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go to the Cisnel. Did you facilitate a group? If we can take Cisnel off of, thank you.
Cisnel is in group 1, Natalie's group.
Oh, so you were in a group. Okay, so Justin, were you in a group? Did you lead?
Justin told me that Robert Finnegan is going to present for group 3.
Okay, leadership. Yes, go ahead, Robert.
Great discussion. We had Rashad, we had Thaddeus and Nosika, Stanley and Kania. I might be getting that last one wrong. We haven't met, sorry. Great discussion. I think we centered around the problem that everybody's highlighting, is that the COVID response has focused its energy so far really on, frontline workers, which is where it needs to be, families, small businesses. turning our thoughts to students and the valuable, like super vital connections they're making, not just to work, but their potential future careers and network is a problem that we recognize. You can't know what you want unless you can see it and feel it, and youth work is super vital for those things. We focused on some of the problems that just are obvious, right? So scale, funding, logistics, how to make this work. And I think when we sort of really rallied around it, it was, data. Thaddeus had brought up a great point. Can we sort of data map this? Can we get a better handle on the funding that's needed to support the number of youth jobs we typically support, and the funding gap that might exist there? Like, how do we actually fund this, particularly if the model has been that student workers, youth workers go on payrolls, and that can't happen? How do we get around that logistic? And I know that Rashad had a lot of ideas around, the work that they're doing. Can we map the jobs that we need to fill within companies? So what are the jobs that are available? I think there was a great question raised. We can't just keep asking students what they want to do. We don't know if the jobs are going to be there. So can we map, companies, nonprofits, with the jobs that are available, and are they still available? How many of them are, outside, inside? How many of them can be virtual? What departments, what types of organizations, from, small local businesses to large corporates to nonprofits? Can we identify student need and capacity? And can we think about, students bringing home a paycheck, not in terms of the student, but also the family? Knowing that so many of these families are out of work as well, the student paycheck, the youth worker paycheck, might be, a source for the family. And, how do we help mitigate that issue for the potential, student worker, but also the family itself? And can we find the right model through technology and platforms to actually support the work, to make sure that, youth workers are engaged, that they have the technology? The biggest shame that would come out of this is to, put a spotlight and deepen the sort of divide and inequities that exist here. And is this a way to create a bridge to that? So I think it really starts with, can we get the right data and ask the right questions to create the right plan and move together? I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're muted as well right now. So
Let me find out, Brady, you muted me. I was gonna say that you guys did a lot in 30 minutes. I'm really, like, you already have a master plan in place. You already got a roadmap of how we're gonna go about getting there. I'm very impressed that all of that was able to come out in 30 minutes, which goes to show that you probably have already been giving it a lot of thought in terms of like how we move forward. So thank you for that. And looking forward to making sure that as we report back in terms of what the action items are, that's some of the things that I think we should definitely pursue, which is some of the things that also I feel like you were all in our room, because some of those things that you were all talking about, some of the things that we were talking about. Let me find out y'all were eavesdropping. So I'm going to go to Mr. Forrester so that he can talk a little bit about some of the things that we discussed in our group.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Robert mentioned is a good segue to our group. It was similar. Just as all of us as workers in our organizations, we figured out what roles we're going to play and how we're going to continue to move our work forward, as organizations or city leaders. It's the same thing that we need to think about as we trickle down this thought about what young people can do or are going to do for the summer. So we talked about doing an assessment, like how do we do like maybe a corporate and nonprofit assessment of the organizations that's already in the scope of meaningful opportunities that were already provided for young people in previous years. So last summer, you have the MLK Scholars, you have all these programs across the board that have provided placement opportunities. Are there sort of assignments that young people can do virtually in a way that keeps them employed and actually bridges gaps for those organizations while we're going through this sort of new normal? We also talked about like peer counseling opportunities. How can we create a system where young people are being held accountable to support one another? That could look like doing some peer-to-peer tutoring or peer-to-peer trainings, etc. And then lastly, like, creating some sort of, list of like, what are all the things that all of us are as organizations are doing, so that young people, if they are still in this social distancing phase and we're still quarantined, that they can potentially create, with support from an organization that they're working with, a development plan. So over the summer, they're not losing anything in regards to their development and their goals to grow, just because they're isolated. So I think those are the complements to what Robert had mentioned. That was a good segue into sort of the items that we talked about, and looking at a plan for the summer for young people as we stay in these the social distancing and quarantine circumstances.
Thank you. Thank you. Did we miss a group? Everybody went, right, Brady?
Oh, yes, all four groups ran.
Okay. So what I'm finding is that there is definitely an appetite to do a number of things. One is to do a full assessment, so that we have a better understanding of the scope of where the holes are and who are the players that can help us fill those holes, right? So you mentioned corporate, nonprofit, and then we also talked about virtual peer mentoring. Like right now, all of our peer leaders, that's a job that over the summer that we could potentially do virtually, right? Well, I think about, I'm gonna go to Thaddeus real quick. He does his photography. There's a lot of things that are coming out of BAM. There are opportunities to do those groups virtually, right? Thaddeus, leading a photography Zoom series where young people, we can get like a Canon or whatever, one of those photography companies to donate cameras to kids. They get a little camera, and maybe someone like you or another photographer could do like a series on like photography. And the digital stills are things that are happening at home, and then they could do a showcase. There's ways to engage young people creatively through the use of virtual reality. Thaddeus.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways for us to engage young people. The reality is they have to have an interest, right?
Yeah.
So giving the person the camera to take a picture is one thing, but giving them the camera and teaching them how to create a message with that picture, the same way you talked about in the early 90s, you were able to do that. But I also think that's the data mapping is going to be the part of clarity. I like what teen empowerment is doing. They're having young people do skits, right? And they're putting out different videos on those things and having kids react. There's development components. Like I'm paying my interns now to actually do professional development, right? To take classes, to do other components. Not necessarily are they in the office and doing some of my work, but they're doing other components that they need to prepare themselves for that next level of engagement. There's a ton of opportunities. We just have to really rally around and look at it. I think one of the things that Rashad said was that the city's already looking at those particular jobs and some of those other components and doing some of that data mapping. I think the main thing for me is that the quicker we can get that information, the quicker funders like myself and others can understand how we can actually supplement some of those that are no longer able to supply those X amount of jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's a continuous movement. It's from now, it's bringing everybody together in some kind of way, but figuring out some way to share it.
Yeah.
And I think before you do your next meeting where it's all kids, let me get off the kids. It's all scholars, right? Before we do that, we need to really have some visual data for them to be able to respond to and lead through.
Yeah.
We can't have them guessing and us not being able to respond. We've got to have some real talk for them to have real talk.
No.
And I think this has been, I don't have to get off, but I know it's time for me to shut up. But I think this has been an amazing meeting. Some amazing work is being done. When I see BCYF, when I see Teen Empowerment, when I see Possible Project, when I see ABCD and these other groups that's there, Stanley and others, this is a great start. This is a great start. And, we just got to stop functioning in silos, but we also have to do those analytics before to really define what the problems are.
Yeah.
Right? In our own way, from the kids, from us as adults, from the people that are doing the jobs. What's the problems? What do I have at mass housing that makes it hard for me to offer summer jobs to young people? So we can't just keep asking the kids what are their problems. We got to ask ourselves, what policies do I have that are preventing it? What needs do I have that are preventing me from being able to do certain things? We have to do our own internal assessment and provide that information back to Rashad and whoever is collecting that information so that they know from both sides. It's not just saying, I can't offer 20 jobs this year. Why can't you offer 20? So that's just my thoughts.
Thank
But
you.
I'm willing to do photography or anything else once we know what the parameters are. I'm down there with you. I'm even willing to teach one of those TikTok classes and get in one of the classes.
TikTok famous. So I want to say something really quick, and Thaddeus may or may not remember, but in 2010, I worked on a project with some young people in Grove Hall, and it was a career explorations program that we ran for ABCD. And at the time you were with another organization, but you guys funded us, and we were able to teach young people around how to utilize video and other different media forms to be able to showcase their messages. And obviously, I really love the arts as a way to engage young people. And I think that's probably why I keep pushing that, but there are a lot of other different types of careers. And we have Irvine here, and Irvine gave me my first job, y'all, right out of college. My first job, my real job, was being a community health educator. And I think that there's two things that we haven't talked about that I really want to uplift in terms of how we start thinking about youth and programming, is mental health and wellness. So I really love the idea that came out of our group in terms of youth peer counseling. There are a lot of young people who are feeling isolated right now. And also there are a lot of young people who are also engaging in high risk behavior. And what I've learned is that we'll see a spike in STIs, which is, STDs, STIs, depending on how you say it. And so I just really want to be super mindful that what this pandemic is doing is also causing our young people to engage, and also the violence on our streets. There are a lot of high risk behaviors that are happening as a result of this. And a lot of it is centered around mental wellness that I really want us to think about as we move forward with this conversation. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think in terms of one of the things that I've always have been really clear about is that my role is just really as a convener. We've done that. We've convened everybody, and I can't believe, and I'm so grateful to all the folks that showed up like that in a few days to engage in this dialogue. But I really do believe that the power really lies within the people who are doing this work. So I think that in the chat is really important for us to, I see this will work in different buckets. I think that what I heard is a needs assessment, like some data mining, if you will. So I think that that's one committee. I think the other one is creative programming ideas. And then I think youth engagement is key. And I think employment, youth opportunities. And I'd love to hear from the wisdom that's in this room as we start thinking about next steps and action planning. Are those the right buckets that we can all sign up to continue to do work in, or not? I'm gonna defer to some of the wisdom that's in this room. Thaddeus, I'm pointing to you. James, just love some help on trying to figure out the next steps. I think we definitely need to keep the conversation going. So everybody needs to make sure you drop your email and contact information in this chat. Would love for you to also identify what area of interest you have as it relates to this work, quote unquote, so that we can start putting people into committees, if that makes sense. Thaddeus, James, y'all.
Also, just on a tactical note, I changed the settings so you guys can unmute yourselves now.
Oh, we're in trouble now, James.
Yeah, no, James is gonna take over.
Listen, y'all gonna stop with this James mute and unmute crap. No, sir.
Yeah. So I think it's I'm just go real quick and then let James rock.
Okay.
I think we really need to, whoever's taking the notes, have a list of action steps, somewhere create priorities And then the next thing is actually create a timeline. Because I don't want to just keep talking and we don't have some timelines and some time frames.
And deliverables and some deliverables.
Right. And
Yep.
then at the end of the day, what are our outcomes that we can expect, and what's the level of impact that we want to have as a group, right? So those are sort of my quick pieces. I'll let James go.
Thank you.
Julie, I would just quickly say, I think the next steps include everything that you said. I'll be glad to take the notes. Natanja and I have already talked about, and probably with a few others, debriefing as well. And I think Thaddeus is important. We take these notes and take the information and put it in some sort of 1 or 2 page visual. So the young people, as well as ourselves, have some sort of sense of where we're going. The timeline, Thaddeus, is valid. We need to set the timeline. I just will name that all of our planning, of course, is in the context of whatever guidelines that the mayor and the governor put out as we approach summer. And that's all I will add. Julia, thank you for convening this. Happy to help, happy to serve. Great to meet some new folks and to also reconvene with some others.
Yeah, and I appreciate the sentiment around the guidelines, depending on what the mayor and the governor, because we might be able to open up, who knows? But I would like to ask everyone here, regardless of whether or not the city opens, I think we do have a beautiful and amazing opportunity to think about how we can do work differently and how we can engage young people who haven't been engaged in other ways, and how we can, as a group, kind of lead that conversation, regardless of what that outcome is, even if it's just a small little pilot that we roll out this summer that is virtual, that engages young people in different ways. So I want to just lend that as something for us to carry and hold, that I think regardless of that we as a group can really do some cool things together in the virtual world. But I definitely want to hug everybody. I'm a hugger. I want to see people. I miss people, and I definitely want to get out of this world. Virtual hugs for everybody. But it sounds like we have our marching orders and some really concrete next steps. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation and working alongside Will and Pamela and Rashad and all of the nonprofit organizations and the folks who have been doing this work. Our team is gonna put together the notes. We have everybody's contact information. If you dropped your email address on the Facebook or in this chat, you'll be plugged in, and then we will voluntold, what that means, we'll tell you whether you sign up for not or something. We're gonna be reaching out to folks to help us carry this work, because this work, I don't think it's something that can live in one place. It has to be a collective. This is all of our babies. Okay,
Julia, this is one quick question. When will the notes go out?
We can have the notes out by Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, the notes will go out on Monday. And then I think what would be great, with that, we'll probably send the date for the next I think before we bring the young people in, I think it's important for us to kind of have another little powwow of sorts, and maybe have the visual that Thaddeus is talking about, so that when we bring the young people in, we're more organized and able to have a conversation that can get at some of the things that we're trying to unpack. Does that sound like a good plan, that we can meet one more time as a group, as a collective, as everyone who was here? Because there are some young people who are here, and there was a young person from NISAC, from YJPU. I did promise her that she could say a few more things before we ended the group. So if you all don't mind, I would like to end with Youth Voice, if you don't mind, please. Go on ahead. You are unmuted.
Hi, okay, thank you. So yeah, just like how my colleague already mentioned, Kanaya, earlier, she was talking about how our campaign was around youth jobs for the summer. And I really appreciate having Rashad here, and also seeing that a lot of people here also really much want youth jobs to continue to work, and adults are also on our side helping us fight for this as well. And I just had a few questions where I just wanted to know, I know that it is kind of hard to get different types of resources out and to have like a virtual type of workspace, which was what Rashad was very much vocalizing. And my main question at first was to see, are we still trying to hit a certain amount of jobs? Like, are we cutting down on the amount of jobs that we're giving out this summer? Or are we giving out the same amount, giving out more? That was one of my questions. And I don't know if Rashad can answer now, or if maybe he can get us an answer later. If you would like to meet with us, that could be very helpful, whichever one.
Hi, so this is Tiara Lyons. I'm the manager of youth employment for YEE. We do still hope to employ the same number of young people. I think that the challenge, which is always the challenge, and I've been in this role for now, I think this will be my second or third summer. I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore, guys. But I will say that the challenge that we always have is with young people completing the hiring process. So it's never that we don't necessarily fill the jobs, it's getting young people to come into our office and complete the paperwork. We've shifted now into virtual hiring. So that is something that the city is adopting across the board. And so I'm hoping that with that if a young person doesn't have to do that, take that additional step of coming into our office, that maybe that might remove the barrier. But we're also very much so aware that having the right paperwork is also a barrier as well. Do young people have their socials? Do they have their birth certificates? Do they have the residency documents that we need? And I've tried to align our criteria with BPS in terms of what they require from homeless youth or youth who are displaced, and just in general, in terms of what they require to prove residency. But even still, we still see barriers. So yes, we do anticipate hiring the same number of young people. We're level funded year to year. But I think it's just making sure that the word gets out there, because we're aware also that young people don't follow us on social media. Their parents do. So how do we engage young people around the jobs being available, being out there, and then also us consolidating all the data that we're getting right now, that we've already received, from like all of our partner organizations. We did a survey with ABCD partners, PIC partners, Success Link, so YEE, our partners, MLK Scholars. We sent out a survey just last week to assess where our partners are in terms of the kinds of services that they can provide, and just like consolidating that data and then trying to figure out how that impacts jobs, and how that impacts the number of young people who may not even be interested anymore, right? Because we're not offering the same kinds of positions that we may be able to offer, or that we were offering maybe last year. So I think there's a lot of what ifs, but the hope is that we can still offer the same number of jobs. I hope that answered your question.
No, it definitely did. And I thank you so much for answering the question. And thank you, Rashad, as well. And maybe if you guys wouldn't mind, but if you guys could meet with us to talk to us more about this, that'd be very helpful in our campaign work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we can, I'll drop my email in the comments, and you can definitely shoot us an email to schedule some time to just talk about all things youth jobs.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna make one more plug here. Thank you. So Stanley's talking a lot around some of the things that are happening with BPS and some of the barriers that young people are facing. We're hosting our office next Tuesday, April the 28th at 6 p.m. We're hosting a conversation around education and equity and all the barriers that exist to the learning gap, Stanley. So you should definitely come to that. But I think we have an opportunity. BPS wasn't involved in this conversation, but that's also a partner that should be engaged with us in terms of summer learning and summer programming. That doesn't just necessarily specifically have to do with jobs, but it's definitely something that should be on our radar. So thank you for raising that, Stanley, in the chat. So I'm not one to hold anybody hostage. Then y'all won't come back to any of our events. You'll be like, all she wanted to do was keep on talking. But I just wanted to say thank you again. I am so grateful. Our office is incredibly grateful that everyone showed up and is participating in this. And we hope once you get the notes, we'll have some specific steps. But I think that this is just the beginning. And I'm really grateful that we're going to do this as a collective, because that's the only way we're going to move the needle. And thank you so much. I hope you all have a fabulous weekend and be on the lookout for our notes on Monday, as we promised. Okay. Thank you. Be safe. Stay home. Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Thaddeus. Thank you all.
Hey, Mejia staff, are we gonna stay on?
The staff, no, we can use our other line. I guess we get photo bomb. Now I'm all paranoid. Bye, Pamela. Thank you for staying.
Thanks, Pam. The cookbook. Oh,
the cookbook.
The cookbook.
Wait, I'm gonna be on the cookbook, y'all. There's gonna be a cookbook that's gonna come out. Talk about it real quick, because we're still live. Go ahead.
All right, so we're going to create a cookbook for families, and we're going to highlight all of the different neighborhoods. So each of our sites are going to have a recipe along with like a picture of our staff sharing our staff. And then I've also asked the city councilors to partake, and they're very excited, especially Miss Julia. You got to put a sancocho in there. What you going to do?
Yeah, no, I gotta talk to my mom. We'll probably do a sancocho, arroz con guandule. We're not sure yet, but it would be something.
Yeah, so actually the funny thing is, in talking to people, more and more people are kind of buying into it. So I think it actually is going to be like a city collaborative. I might get departments to join in. And so it's going to be a really cool thing. So be on the lookout for that. There'll be a City of Boston family cookbook coming out.
That's great.
Very
I love that idea.
We're gonna push it.
And then we need to do a cook-off. After we have to cook it, and people have do a little potluck where everybody brings their dish. We can have a community potluck. Hopefully we get to be in each other's presence again. But
I know.
I hope you guys understand how much we appreciate you being part of this conversation. Will, you and I go back 120 years, so we're still in this. We're still doing it together, and so I'm looking forward to bringing it to the next level and working in partnership. The budget is coming down the pipeline. There's a lot of work that we need to do to make sure that our kids have the resources that they need. I'm a partner in that, so here to do the work, and I appreciate you all and Cisnel being the liaison and making sure that you all participate in this process. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Jacob.